yeah. Good catch. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Growing in Real Time with your host, Aaron. And this is,
I'm Derrick.
I want to thank you for spending your time with us, whether you're watching live, jumping on, or watching by replay. And I guess before we get started, what's in the glass tonight, Derrick?
Very simple. It's a Moscow Mule, but with a slight variation. Um, I mixed a shot of vodka and a shot of bourbon in this.
Oh,
So I should be pretty interesting by the time the show ends.
yeah. Yeah. So I got a red blend, but I don't know, wine and cheese sounded good.
Ooh,
So I've got a plate of some different kinds of cheese and crackers, so I might be nibbling
okay.
tonight.
You got some English cheddar on that plate?
I have smoked cheddar,
Okay.
but I don't have English cheddar. I've got smoked cheddar, Swiss, and then a little bit of provolone, so nothing too fancy.
That sounds good. That's all of that, pairs well with the red blend. So you're in good shape, man.
Yeah, I hope so. So I'll introduce the topic tonight, since I picked the topic for tonight. But something I've been thinking about something that you brought up. I don't know. It's been a few months now, I think.
Mhm.
You asked me, we were having a private conversation on the phone, and you asked me, what do you do?
Yeah.
And when people are asked that question, we generally express what we do or what we're doing in the present moment, right? Like I'm a counselor,
Mhm.
counsel people, help people, create some content, that kind of stuff. And you took it in a different direction, and you said, from now on, and I don't remember exactly how you said it. You can clarify it for me if I mess it up, but I'm no longer going to tell people what I do, like I'm, in software and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. I'm going to start speaking who I am in terms of my dream, gifting, values.
Yeah.
So I am a motivational speaker. I'm an author. I'm a content creator that helps people live their best lives. I can't remember exactly how you.
That's close. That's close enough for the sake of the conversation. Yeah.
And I've been thinking about that, and I've been thinking about change. I've been writing about that a little bit on my Facebook page.
Yep.
About, I think we're too quick to accept circumstances the way they are, or I would say it this way: our sailboat gets caught up in the winds of life, right?
Yeah.
Like so much momentum can get going in a negative direction if you allow it. When life presents you with a challenge, an obstacle, something unpleasant, something that you need to overcome,
Hmm.
and the power of that, the shock, the difficulty of the situation, whatever it may be, loss of a job, loss of a relationship, illness, loved one going through problems, whatever it might be, the emotional power of that, the momentum of that can really carry it to its conclusion, to its natural conclusion, right? Or if you're just living a life that doesn't match perfectly with the life that you want to live, you're doing something to bring in money, but your heart is desiring to do something else to bring in money.
Yep.
It's just easy to kind of go with the flow, right?
Yep.
And then we can come up with all kinds of platitudes, religious or otherwise, because the self-help community has their own platitudes, right?
Yep. Yep.
About, making peace with it, accepting it, not putting up resistance towards it, that kind of stuff. And I just have something inside me that's always been resistant to that. That's always, I guess, had hope, no matter how bad the situation is, all is not lost. Something good is going to happen. Something good is going to come out of this. And then I also believe that we have an incredible ability as human beings to influence our outcomes, to manifest, to create our own realities, however people want to describe that or explain that phenomena. And I think the power of our words is very, very important to that. And so by declaring not what is, but by declaring what will be,
Hmm.
what is not yet, how about that? Instead of declaring what is not yet.
Or to use some Bible terminology, speaking things that are not as though they are.
Yeah. That we can change the trajectory. We can establish really a new timeline. And what I mean by that is if events are happening in your life and you don't take any action to change those events, then a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to be in a certain place in your life.
Yep.
That's one timeline, right? That's one version of reality that you can experience. A different timeline would be sort of these crucial moments in our lives where we say, no, I'm not going that direction. I want this instead. And so we begin to speak and act and think and develop a state of being that is conducive to this other timeline so that we end up in a different place, right?
Yes.
And this is where I think the challenge comes for people, because everything in life, how do I want to say this? It begins in the dark.
Yeah.
The moon cycle has just been fascinating to me. I've been thinking about this. I don't know why. Like the new moon, you can't see it, right? But eventually it becomes the full moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And manifestation's kind of like that. Or the baby gets planted in the womb, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't see it. You don't know it's there. You don't know anything's changed or anything's happening until a few weeks after. And then you don't meet the baby until the baby's born, right?
Right.
So it's happening in a place that is unseen. And I think that's the challenge for us, is to realize, like, where our babies for our future, metaphorically speaking, are born is in our mindsets, our attitudes, our state of being, and then that's reflected in our words. And so there is real power in declaring what's not, as you said, as though it were. But people have a hard time with that because, well, I feel like I'm lying, or I feel like I'm pretending, or I feel like it's, you know what I'm saying? And in a sense, you are pretending. If you take the word pretend to attend to beforehand, you're attending to a new reality before it shows up. So there is some, I think, wisdom in phrases like fake it till you make it and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I'd set up the frame for tonight's discussion.
Well, I like to flip that fake it till you make it on its ear and say, believe it until you see it.
Yeah.
Believe it until you see it. And you said something, this is a growing in real time moment, because, you talked about a baby. A baby is conceived in the darkness of the mother's womb.
Mm-hmm.
A seed is planted in the darkness of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
A star is birthed in the darkness of space.
Mm-hmm.
All these things, something happens in the dark before it happens in the light. And why is this important? Because it's easy to speak things positively when you're in the daylight of your life. When things are going well, there's not a cloud in the sky, everything is going good. It's easy to speak positive then. But to speak positively in the darkness, in the dark seasons of your life, and so, like Maya and I, we talk about this a lot. And real quick, before I go too far down the road, her birthday is Sunday. So happy birthday, baby. Happy birthday. Just putting it out here so that everybody in the world can hear me say happy birthday to my love. But she is, Maya is a by the numbers realist. Whereas I'm a happy optimist. Now, granted, I have my moments, my by the numbers moments. And, like when I was going through the whole unemployment thing, it was like the numbers were scary. The numbers were scary. But it was like, you and some others were very keen on keeping my optimism up. And I would refuse to speak negatively, but it was hard to speak positively. So you're caught in this limbo of like, okay, are you manifesting something positive, manifesting something negative, or are you manifesting something that basically you're leaving to chance? And so you don't want to do that. So when we talk about the power of words, why words are so important, because first of all, every single thing that we know of as human beings begins with a thought. Before a masterpiece is rendered on canvas, before a concerto is manifest in a concert hall, before a touchdown pass is thrown, you name it, it
Mhm.
begins in the mind of somebody.
Right.
And then that mind triggers speech,
Mhm.
and that speech triggers action. And so when we look at our actions and we ask ourselves, well, why is my action not producing the result that I want? It's because your thoughts and your words are not aligned, or
Mhm.
they are not aligned to produce the result that you want. And so when you read any book on manifestation, and I've been pouring through a lot lately, I mean,
Mhm.
reading audiobooks, I think, this is sort of like a banner year for me, because I think last year I think I read 8 books total. I've read 8 books this year.
That's awesome. Good for
This
you.
year. I mean, just in the last month,
Mhm.
and but in when and most of them are about manifestation, and everyone, there is a common denominator. It's alignment.
Mhm.
It's alignment that produces results. So what are you aligned with? Are you aligned with something positive, a positive outcome, or are you aligned with a negative outcome? And the words that you speak are going to create that alignment between the it's going to be the bridge between the thought and the reality.
Mhm.
So it's really key, I think, that not only do we learn to speak better, and we can walk this back a little bit further and say, think better, speak better, but it's like, again, I'm going to go into some preaching tropes here. We
Sorry,
used
not
to talk about being in season and out of season,
yeah, right.
right? And and so everybody talks about a word well timed, spoken in season.
Yeah.
Well, what about a word that is positive, a word that is edifying, a word that is elevating, a word that is that's empowering, spoken in the dark? Because and here's the thing, we have to understand that the seed of anything begins in the dark. When you have a thought, your thoughts don't immediately come to light. They are in the dark recesses of your mind.
Right.
And let me give you a shout out too, for your teachings, because uh, this is why shadow work is so important. It isn't trying. Shadow work is not about eliminating the dark spaces of your life.
Right.
It's understanding what they are and what lives there, or what do you permit to be there. And so if you understand that the oh man, if you stop and think and say, my shadow is a safe place, my dark place is a safe place, I can trust myself to place a positive thought into this dark place, and allow it to germinate. And here's the other thing too, is that when we speak something in the dark, with the expectation of seeing it come into the light, we have to like let it sit there. It has to ruminate, it has to gestate, because if you keep going back to it and digging it up to look at it, to check the progress, it's never going to sprout, it's never going to spring forth. So the one thing that I'm learning is, I have a thought. If it's a negative thought, I bring every thought into captivity. I told you I've got some tropes today.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bring that thought into captivity. I'm going to arrest that thought and jail it,
Mhm.
to where, and put it in a place where it can no longer speak to me. So that
Yep.
it no longer informs my thoughts. Then once I take that negative, I'm going to replace it immediately with something positive, and I'm going to speak it, and I'm not going to keep looking at it to see when it's going to come to pass.
Right.
I have to let it sit there. I have to let it grow. I have to let it germinate. I have to let it ruminate, and is what we need to do. It's anyway. I've gone on a lot here, but
I think that how I would say it, and this is how I've experienced it, is until it's real inside of you, it cannot become real outside of you.
mm,
And
correct.
so what I mean by that, a lot of like Neville Goddard's teachings, for example, if people know about
Yep.
Neville Goddard, The Feeling is the Secret, I think is the book he's the most well known for. You've got to feel like you're living in the end result before it shows up.
Yep.
Or he talks a lot about the use of the imagination. In fact, he goes so far as to say the imagination is God, or God is the imagination. And
A lot of truth there.
so his teachings encourages you to imagine that you're already living in the outcome. And I think the the reason that's powerful and effective is because it creates that reality and the felt reality of it internally before something shifts
Mm,
externally.
yeah.
Now, this is really powerful because it takes you out of reaction. It takes you out of reaction
Hmm.
and it sets you at cause rather than at effect.
Yep.
So,
You
I'm
become proactive instead of reactive.
yeah, I'm going through some stuff, and you asked me tonight how's it going, and I said, good days and bad days, like one
Yep.
good day, then one bad day, then one good day, then one bad day, right?
Yep.
Well, if that's all I got, then on the good days, I'm going to feel relieved and like I'm making progress. And then on the bad days, I'm going to say, well, I guess not. Shit hit the fan. This sucks. I'm going back to bed, right?
Yep.
And then it's good for a couple days, and it's not good for a couple days while you're working on, a goal and trying to see something progress. And so that makes you very reactionary, right?
Yep.
So by imagining an outcome, I don't think there's any magical power. Like I wouldn't go as far as Neville to say the imagination is God. And, almost like the way I hear what Neville Goddard teaches is there's almost magical power in the imagination in the same sense that, or, there's power in the words, the same sense that, abracadabra or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But there is power in living in the outcome as though it were a present reality before it shows up. And that puts you at cause. So in other words, it really requires a quality decision. This is how the outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
And I decided it. I'm jumping off the cliff with it. This is how it's going to be. When I came out of the hospital a year and a half ago or whatever, it was live or die.
Yep.
And, or, at least live with wellness and longevity or not. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to make this quality decision, no matter what the doctors are saying, no matter what the algorithms are saying, no matter what the science-backed statistics say about my case and my situation. I am going to live and have longevity and have wellness in my life. That quality decision is so important because it allows you to stay committed to the positive outcome that you're wanting to manifest. I think sometimes we don't manifest stuff because we're not really committed to the outcome. And so the first sign of a setback or the first indication that, oh, maybe this isn't working or maybe this will never happen, it's easy to waver.
Yeah.
And so that's where what you're saying, monitoring your thought life. Look, negative thoughts are going to happen, are going to come.
They come.
Negative emotional states are going to be there.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of teaching on manifestation. I've talked to a lot of people. If they're afraid, if they're in fear about a situation, they're afraid that fear is going to manifest because they're afraid of it, which just increases the fear, because now you're not only afraid of the situation, you're afraid of the fear that you have about the situation. So now you're fearing your own fear, right? So it just begins to multiply and explode. So I think we have to normalize those negative thoughts are going to come. Those bad reports are going to come. Those fear, frustration, depression, whatever kind of feelings, those are all going to come. It's whether or not you allow those to make you move away from your decision so that you lose the momentum of what I'm creating. So if I get a negative feeling or have a negative thought, that's just information, right? That's all it is.
Yeah.
Not facts. It's not determining the outcome.
Mhm.
It's just information. And sometimes that's just information to let me know I'm not quite there yet.
Right.
I got to work harder at making this so real on the inside before it can become real on the outside. And that's where I think our words are so important, because our words will reveal what we really feel and what we really think. So I could tell you all day long, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire. And then I say something like, I just don't think I'll ever be able to afford that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or,
You undo what you've already planted. You've dug up the seed.
but it also reveals, yeah, it does that. But the point I'm making is it reveals where I'm at. I
Yeah.
don't really believe that I'm that millionaire yet, or I wouldn't be making those kind of statements.
Yeah.
So it reveals, okay, I've got more work to do.
Yeah. And here's the thing. The other thing too is that you make a really good point, because revelation doesn't mean a setback. You know that if fear kicks in and you say, "Well, I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. Oh, damn, I'm not a millionaire." Okay,
Mhm.
and then you panic, right? Okay, that just means that you have to reset your alignment.
Exactly.
You don't give up. You don't let go of the dream. You don't let go of what it is that you're manifesting. You're just saying, okay, I need to shift some things around. That's just like, again, using the analogy of the seed. If you put the seed in the ground and you say, okay, I see that there's a shadow of a tree directly in the path of the seed. That means that I need to maybe take that dirt and shift the dirt around a little bit, so that you're not digging up the seed, mind
Right.
you. You're
Right.
moving it into the path where it can receive the sunlight, or you cut the tree down. Whichever makes more sense. Um, when you have negative thoughts, that doesn't mean that your manifestation is not coming to pass.
Right.
It just means that there is something that you have misaligned, and you need to you need to fix that. I like car analogies, and so when cars go out to race, um, alignment of the wheels is key, because the proper alignment makes for the best contact patch for the tire on the road. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing twists and turns, road courses, banked ovals like NASCAR, or drag racing. Your alignment dictates your progress.
Mhm.
It directly informs and influences your progress. So what trial runs and timing, or qualifying runs are for, is to get the alignment correct, so
Mhm.
that you can run the race efficiently. So a lot of times, we'll have a negative thought, and like you said, negative thoughts come. They come. And another thing too, I'm going to say something really controversial here in the course of this, is that you want to arrest the thought. You want to arrest the thought to a degree that it does not have power over what it is that you're believing for, what you're trying to manifest. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to silence the thought. And I said something about that earlier, and I said, you may not be able to silence it, but you may be able to change its degree of influence over you. So
Mhm.
what you want to do is, when that happens, you want to stick with what it is that you're manifesting, and don't give in to the fear. Another thing that I want to say this too, because this was something May and I were talking about. Is she said, well, what happens when someone doesn't have the time to do the things that they want to do to manifest the reality that they want? And I have to agree with her at a point, because
Mhm.
sometimes, like, there's some people that can plunge headlong into this, and they
Mhm.
can and they have this dogged stick to itivity. That's not a word, I just made that up.
I
but
like it.
They can stick to something and just keep at it, keep prosecuting it. Some people are not like that. And if you find yourself not being like that, where you're not be able to go headlong into this thing and just stick to it, find out how much can you accomplish in a short period of time. In other words, if you don't have an hour to dedicate to what it is that you're trying to manifest in your life, make it a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Find a minute. Find a minute. Or like if you're writing a book, and you sit down and write one sentence.
Mm-hmm.
One sentence. You're running laps around the guy that's dreaming about putting
Yeah.
this content to paper.
Yep.
So it's like just finding where can you take the baby steps? Where can you take the baby steps? And what you'll find is, this is my experience, is what you'll find is that when you focus on these baby steps and you say, okay, how can I employ a micro strategy
Mm-hmm.
for manifestation, a little bit at a time, you'll find that those, because the other thing too is that you have what's called the power of compounding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you begin to stack activities together,
Right.
they don't just move you in a linear fashion.
Right.
It's kind of a multiplicative effect, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes an exponential effect, and pretty soon, you're blowing up, and everything is working as if it's on 8 cylinders. But it's because you took the time to just deal with in the minor things. And again, to use a preaching trope, I see our buddy Patrick Jubert is on. You know, people used to always accuse preachers of majoring in the minors, right? And this is like one of those times where I think that you may have to actually major in the minors. You may have to give some time to the micro strategy to say, okay, what little bit can I do? So what you do is you say, okay, this is what I want to manifest, and this is a step that I can take toward that. I'm going to tell you a true story. True story. I have a friend who has an exotic car.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he what he would do is he would buy one car and he'd keep it until he could get the next car that was closer to that car. And the one thing that he would do is he would take a picture of the instrument panel of the car that he wanted and put it in the gauge cluster of the car that he was driving.
That's pretty clever.
So that he's always seeing, and so anyway, the guy I know, he drives Lamborghinis.
Okay.
He's got 3 of them.
Wow.
And that's how he did it. And he's a young guy. I mean, Jeff is like, I think he might be 40 now.
Wow.
But again, it's like taking little steps. And the other thing too is like the power of a touchstone, right? You may not be able to afford a Louis Vuitton bag right now, but you could possibly afford the lock for one of those little padlocks for one of these bags. And you get that and you put that in a prominent place, and you just and you look at this and you say, hey, I'm speaking gratitude to the universe that my bag sits here. Because now you have something that you can look at, something you have a focal point. And that's another thing we need to in manifestation is develop a focal point.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we can focus our attention, our affection upon until the manifestation comes to pass, because this will give you a sense of urgency. It'll give you a sense of inspiration, because you can say, okay, I can see this part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not long before I can see the whole thing.
Yeah, what just keeps coming back to my mind. Good. That's a really good, it's a great question that Maya has. Like, how do you manifest if you don't have the time? You use the example of maybe you want to be an author that writes books, right? But you're spending so much time with the necessary things of life. You're parent, you're paying bills, you're
Yeah.
working, and then life happens in between all of that too, right?
Yep.
So it's an excellent question or point that she's making. But where my mind went with that was, again, I'll never be able to get away from scripture because I just spent way too much time with it. But um, Jesus talks about the faith as a mustard seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about doing the small thing, write a sentence.
Yep.
You're ahead of the person that's not doing anything. Um, we always interpret that just in terms of its size. That's how I always heard it taught. If you have
Yep.
faith as a mustard seed, and the mustard seed is the smallest seed in the seed kingdom, and it just takes a little bit of faith, right? And
Yep.
I think we give people the wrong idea that if you just have a little bit of faith, things are going to change. I don't think that's what is being said there at all. He says faith as a mustard seed.
Right.
So he didn't say the faith the size of, maybe he did in
Right.
one place, but in one place for sure he says faith as a mustard seed, right?
Right.
So it's a seed. So what happens when you plant a seed is you start a process. And so I think what's being said there was you don't have to do a lot at first.
Yeah.
Just take what you've got right now. It may just be the size of a mustard seed, but if you'll put it to work, if you'll plant it, it'll initiate a process in your life that will cause changes that you won't even be able to see and recognize, that will lead perhaps to synchronicities that will occur in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're attentive to that, then opportunities may present themselves where something occurs seemingly unrelated to your desire to be an author that causes you to have to miss work for an extended period of time or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, right?
Yep.
And you look at that situation and say, okay, now I can take this time. This is what people did during the pandemic. I wanted to learn a second language, but I never had time. I wanted to, take up a hobby, or I wanted to start podcasting, or I wanted to write books.
Yep.
And the world kind of came to a halt there for a while, and everybody's freaking out and panicking. And then some other people saw this is my opportunity to develop the skill and learn the things that I didn't have the time to do before. And so I think it's important to recognize the power of just beginning where you are, and don't underestimate if it seems like small things that you're doing, because those small things can develop.
Yep.
So, other point I want to make, which is just interesting to me, I don't know why this is popping into my head, but I want to get your thoughts about it.
Sure.
In one of the places, Jesus says, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you can say to the mulberry tree, be uprooted and be planted into the sea.
Yep.
So he's speaking the end result, right? So
Yep.
there's the power of words. They're speaking something into manifestation, into existence. But this is so interesting because I think we're familiar with, if you have faith, you can say to the mountain and the mountain will be cast into the sea. Well, when a mountain's cast into the sea, it dissipates, right?
Yep.
It dissolves into the water. But with this mulberry tree, he's saying something very interesting. Be uprooted from your environment, which is conducive for the prosperity of a mulberry tree,
Mm-hmm.
and be planted in a place that's completely not conducive
Yep.
for the growth of a mulberry tree.
Right.
And I think there's a principle in that too, because we're always waiting for the right timing, the right circumstances, the right environment. I would do this if, I would have this if I didn't, and those things all become excuses. And so in this short little parable that Jesus was teaching, it's like, if you will have faith and you will start speaking the outcome and you will start the process, you can make something thrive in the worst environment possible for it. And it will obey you, is what it says. It will obey you. That means it will be planted. It won't be dissolved. It won't die. It will be planted and will thrive, even in the midst of a environment that's not at all conducive to the life of a mulberry tree.
Right. I mean, if you think about, like, a mulberry tree is like most inland plants, that it depends on fresh water for its growth. You take it, you say move it into the sea. Now you're talking to, salt water. You're talking about arid kind of climate. You're talking about a lot of things that are different. And you really make a great point, because I used to always tell my kids, grow where you're planted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, grow where you're planted, because you may not be in the space that you want to be in, but if you can grow where you're planted, you could be replanted in the place where you want to be,
Yeah.
because you've demonstrated your ability to grow in a place that you don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. But I want to go back to the mustard seed for a second, because the mustard seed, and this was something that I had learned. I was working on a sermon
Yeah.
years ago
Mm-hmm.
about that, and that the mustard seed has a unique ability to thrive in hostile places.
Mm.
And so when Jesus said that having the faith as a mustard seed, he's not talking, people always, like you said, focus on the small, that, don't despise small beginnings. I preach that message too.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's not the faith like, it's the faith as. It's the as is what can the mustard seed do. And so one of the things that they found in the mountainous regions in Judea and Palestine is that mustard plants will grow in a crevice
Mm.
in a mountainous area, and they will expand their root base in such a way that it causes the rock, it causes the cleavage to split further. That's why he was able to say that this seed could tell this mountain to be removed and cast into the sea, because and again, it's not little faith, it's the power of the faith, it's the dynamic, or the dunamis, that we used to preach, the dunamis power, that dynamic power that causes this to happen. And so one of the things I want to talk about too is like the power of repetition.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you go out and pick up a 20-pound dumbbell, you might be able to pick it up, and you may be able to curl it once.
Yep.
But that in and of itself is not going to do anything to strengthen you. It's
Right.
what can you do with repetition.
Yep.
And so one of the things that I'm learning, I've learned this, and I'm trying to share this with others, is that when you're talking about manifestation, and mind you, this is counterintuitive to a lot of what people teach about manifestation, because they'll say, go for the big one, swing for the home run.
Mm-hmm.
And there are cases where you can actually do that. There are cases where I'm not saying that you can't pull that off. I will
Right.
never say what you can't do. What
Right.
I'm saying is what is probable. Now, if you take your faith, your desire, your dream, what it is that you're manifesting, and you say, I'll start with something small. I'll start with something small. And I believe that and work toward that until I see that expressed physically in my life. Now, once I've seen that, then I say, okay, that's cool. Now let's see what else I can do. What more can I do? And again, you begin to stack these attributes, these manifestation or manifestation activities, and you're stacking them until you're seeing them come to pass. And again, what's happening is it's not just 1+1 = 2. It's like 1+1 = 5. 5+5 = 30. So you go from having a multiplicative effect to an exponential effect to something even greater. And this is another thing. I'm going to pick on Jesus again for a minute, because because he's there. uh, you know what Jesus would accomplish. Again, if we assume that Jesus was a real person, that he existed, that what made him special was not that he was divine, not that he was the Son of God. It was that he had this unrelenting confidence that what he visualized was going to come to pass.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was teaching his disciples, even if let's say Jesus was the Son of God, the Son of Elohim, the Son of Yahweh. Let's say that he was that. His disciples were not. But he said, the greater works than these shall you do. Why is that? Because if you, what Jesus was saying is that if you can get the level of confidence that I have,
Mm-hmm.
that when you believe and don't doubt, when you absolutely know that this thing that exists in your mind is going to result in an outcome, when you get that level of confidence, and the one thing that I see in virtually every successful person, whether you look at Michael Jordan, or whether you look at Oprah, or you look at Justin Bieber, or you look any of these people that are Katy Perry, any of these people that are just really successful, they latched on to something and they just did not let go of it. They didn't let go of it. They believed in themselves. And so let me stop there for real quick, because I want to say something to everybody that's listening. You know, uh, there's a passage in the Bible where Jesus says, believe in God, believe also in me, right? And if Jesus is God, then that's oxymoronic.
Mm.
It doesn't make sense to say, if you believe in God, believe also in me. But if you turn that around and you say, believe in God, believe also in I am,
Mm-hmm.
your own self,
Mm-hmm.
believe in you. Now that changes the whole narrative, because now you say, okay, I have faith in the probability of the universe to produce these things, or God, or whatever you want to call it, right? Source, whatever. But I also believe in me. I believe in me. I have no doubt in my ability to produce a thing, to bring something to pass.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things what we have to do is bang this drum relentlessly, that if you're going to believe in something, believe first in yourself. Because really, in a very psychological, or mystical, metaphysical sense, only thing that you really know is you.
Yep.
That's the only thing that you're certain of. Where you take the Cartesian approach. I think, therefore I am.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, so I exist. That's the only thing that certainly,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, I don't know whether Aaron, because Aaron thinks he is. I don't know that. I suspect it because I have an interface with you. I have interaction with you, so I have a suspicion. I can calculate a probability of that, but I don't know it for certain. But I know this about me, and so the reality is that you don't know whether God is, or the universe is, or source is. You don't know, but you do know you.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go back and I reread Jesus and some of the things that he said, believe in God, believe also in me. No, that doesn't make any sense. That's oxymoronic, because if Jesus is God, it's like, believe in God, believe also in God.
Yep.
Okay? Help me understand, Jesus. That doesn't make any sense. But if you say, well, okay, believe in God, believe also in the I am. What is in you?
Mm-hmm.
Believe in yourself. Believe in your own power. Lean into that. Put confidence in that, and then you begin to produce. And that, I think, was what would lead the disciples to be successful. And again, I'm going to use another Jesus trope, and then I'm going to shut up. It's like they're on the boat crossing the Sea of Galilee, and they're in the midst of the storm, and said Jesus was in the back of the boat asleep. The disciples, who had been on this water many times, they're looking around, they see the wind, they see the waves, they see the rain, and they say, oh, fuck, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And they go back to Jesus and they say, hey, Jesus, wake up. We're about to die. Do you care? And Jesus says, how long am I going to have to deal with you people?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what you do. He stood on the bow of the boat, said, peace be still, and the storm calm. And so everybody's like, what manner of man is this that's able to speak to the storms? He wasn't doing anything in and of himself to try to give himself any glory. He was showing us that we have storms in our lives. We have situations that are not forthcoming, that are not fortuitous. But if we can muster up the confidence to say, you know something, be still.
Yeah.
I feel my hope coming on here.
Well, you make an excellent point, but I can hear this. I can hear this from people, right? Yeah, Derek, but you don't know me. You don't know how messed up my life has been. You don't
Mhm.
know how much I lack discipline.
Mhm.
You don't know how hard it. I mean, whatever. You don't know how many times I messed up. You don't know all the bad things I've done in my life.
Yeah.
They've created this whole TikTok diagnosis called imposter syndrome that people have, where they're received one way and perceived one way by others, but deep down they feel like they're not that at all, and they
Right.
have this fear that they're going to be exposed for being an imposter, being a phony, right?
Yep.
So, so I want to speak to that for a minute because I think that's a real thing. Like,
Preach on it, man.
you got to believe in yourself. I agree with everything you said, and then I can hear the person out there. Yeah, but you don't know me. You don't know my track record. You know all that stuff. So here's the cool thing. When you're talking about faith in yourself, you're talking about believing in yourself, right? Believe
Yep.
in God, believe also in me.
Yep.
But we also have beliefs about ourselves.
Mm.
So if I say to you, you don't know me, Derek, you don't know my track record,
Hmm.
you don't know what kind of a loser I am. Whatever people are saying,
Yep.
those are all beliefs.
Beliefs about yourself. Yep.
So you can sit there and be discouraged. I believe that I'm not capable of doing this. I believe that this could happen for other people, but not for me.
Hmm.
I believe that Jesus could do that, but Jesus, who knows, maybe some mythical creature thing that some people made up. Maybe he's the son of God uniquely, whatever, but his life experience doesn't match my life experience. All of that are beliefs.
Yep.
And that gives you the best opportunity to practice the very thing that you're saying,
Hmm.
because it gives you the opportunity to recognize what you believe about yourself
Yep.
and then shift and change what you believe about yourself. And when you shift and change what you believe about yourself, you're actually doing what Derrick's talking about.
Yep.
So the argument against it, yeah, I hear what you're saying and I believe it, but you don't know me, actually becomes your opportunity to put it into practice
Yep.
by changing something you believe. Now, here's the thing about beliefs. We've got beliefs about everything. I crack up. I do, and I'm not trying to be offensive. I know what people mean when they go, agnostic, atheist route, whatever they say.
Yep.
I don't have any beliefs anymore. I've given up on beliefs.
Right.
And I think what they're saying is I've given up on creeds or, whatever. But the
Yeah.
truth is, everybody has beliefs.
Everybody believes something.
Everybody has beliefs. You cannot function or operate in life. You believe things to be true or not to be true.
Right. Because you don't know everything.
Right. But so I have beliefs about people. I have beliefs about you. I have beliefs about myself. I have beliefs about the economy. I have beliefs about my abilities to, what can be produced. Let me leave myself out. Let me back up. I have beliefs about the economy. I have beliefs about what's possible based on what's out there, right?
Hmm.
And I can go to work on changing those beliefs. Maybe I believe people suck and I can't trust anybody, right?
Yeah.
If I'm on the negative side of things. Well, I can work on changing that belief, maybe not all people suck. That's a different belief, right?
Yeah.
Maybe just some people suck. Maybe I just consistently meet and get myself involved with people that suck. But my point is, I'm changing my beliefs about people. That will change one part of your life, your
Right.
relationships with people. It won't necessarily do anything for your finances, won't do anything for your health necessarily.
Right.
But if you change a belief at the level of your identity,
Yep.
just everything that you were just saying, Descartes, I think, therefore I am. The only thing I can be absolutely certain of is that I exist.
Yep.
Right. And that statement says you can't get away from yourself. Like that is the core reality. Your consciousness, your inner being, the fact that you're thinking is something you can never get away from.
Right.
You can go with Aaron Rodgers on a darkness retreat and drink tea that makes you poop and have an ayahuasca trip. but you still can't get away from you, right?
Right.
So here's the power of it. If you change an identity belief, if you go from I am powerless to I am powerful, if you go from I am worthless to I am worthy, if you go from uh, I am uh, whatever incapable to I am capable, I am able, right?
Yep.
Because that changes everything. So if I go from I'm a belief that somehow instills in me that I'm powerless to the belief that I am powerful, and I
Yep.
really believe it, I really change it, I really believe that. Well, now I'm powerful in my relationships with other people. I'm powerful when I go to make money.
Hmm.
I'm powerful when I go to heal myself or to be healthy and to have longevity. So by shifting that one belief, you shift everything in your life.
Correct.
So if people were going to go to work and say, where do I start with this? Start with an honest assessment of what you really believe about yourself. Realize that they are just beliefs that were installed into you, really,
Hmm.
by your experiences, by society, by messages that you heard, by things that you told yourself. And you say, I'm going to install another different belief, a
Yep.
contrary belief to that, that's positive. And you really go to work through the repetition and through the speaking it and through the thinking it and through the imagining it until it becomes really real on the inside. That will transform your whole life. Just one belief, just changing one belief about yourself has the potential to transform everything that's going on in your life.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so that would be how I would answer that. Because as you were talking, I was just hearing that in my head, like, yeah, Derek, but you don't know me. And let me say one last thing about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'll do this with clients that I coach or people that I'm counseling. I'll get them to start speaking positive and making positive statements about themselves. And I'll ask them, okay, when you make this statement, I am capable of all things or whatever,
Hmm.
what do you feel on the inside when you make that statement? Now, sometimes they'll say, I feel empowered. It feels good. And then sometimes they'll say, it doesn't feel true at all. I I feel like I'm lying.
Hmm.
I love it when I hear those answers.
Yep.
Love it when I hear those answers because this is what I tell them. Great. Because what you just told me is that there's not an ounce of you that believes that that's true, which means now we've just found your greatest opportunity for growth and change.
Yep. Wow.
Because you're not moving from 75 to 100 or 50 to 50. You're moving from 0 to a possible 100.
Yeah.
This can radically transform your life if you'll give yourself to it. So, anyway.
That is incredibly powerful. And that's like one of the things that I'm learning about manifestation is that it's really driven by identity.
Mm-hmm.
What do you believe about you? And so I want to give everyone that's watching a homework assignment. Now I know, like, you're probably watching this. Say, I don't want to do any homework, man. But bear with me. If you write down some attributes about yourself, I'm good with money. I'm not good with money. I'm good with relationships. I'm not good with relationships. I'm good with friendship decisions. I'm not good with friendship decisions. And write all of these things down and be as honest with
Yeah.
yourself as possible. Write down 10 things that you think good about yourself and 10 things that you don't think good about yourself. Then with each one, because you can't just do this about the bad ones, you got to do it with the good ones too. And this is where shadow work comes in,
Yeah.
is that ask yourself these good things that you believe about yourself and these bad things you believe about yourself. Are these things that you believe based on your own experience? Or are these things that you believe because somebody told you?
Right.
And then you ask yourself, whose report will you believe? Because I told you I'm full of Bible tropes, full of preaching tropes today. whose report will you believe? Are you going to believe what others have said about you, or are you going to believe what you believe about yourself? Now, let me say this. If you believe based on your experience, for example, I'm not good with money, I'm not good with relationships, I'm not good with career choices, ask yourself, why am I not? Why do these conditions persist in my life? And what can I do to change that? I mean, and again, what you're doing now, you're becoming an active participant in the shaping of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You become a co-creator of your reality, and you begin to change it. And like you said, now we're looking at micro strategies. We're not looking at, how do I change my whole self? Because like if you say about yourself, I'm an asshole. Okay, that's a pretty exhaustive analysis, a pretty exhaustive self assessment. How do you unpack what makes you an asshole?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're going through a whole bunch of different things to unpack and treat each one of these things. But again, even if you take that approach, you say, I'm not a good person. Okay, why am I not a good person? Because I do this, 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 and this. So now you unpack these things and you say, what would it look like if I were good at these things, or if I were operating positively in these spaces? And then say, okay, these are the steps that I'm going to take in order to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, so one of the things that if you guys have been following any of my lives or videos, I've been talking a lot about Kaizen,
Mm-hmm.
the principle of continuous improvement. And I am so sold out on Kaizen. I think the Kaizen, Kaizen is a better principle than faith.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I am, because if you say, I recognize this problem that I have, and 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 I know that if I want to achieve X, Y, and Z, I need to deal with this problem. So now you can say, what does it look like to improve 1%
Yeah.
daily on this?
Yeah.
And again, if you're improving 1% daily on this, you're not improving 100% each day. You may be 200%, 300%, 1,000% per day, because every time you improve 1% on this one thing, you achieve five things, and now you're 1% of those five things, and not 1% of just one thing. And you have this compounding effect like interest, and just like interest, it grows.
Mm-hmm.
And before you know it, you have completely transformed yourself. You've transformed your life. And one other thing I want to get to too is um, Malcolm Gladwell wrote this book called The Tipping Point, which to me is seminal. I think everybody really needs to read The Tipping Point. It's that profound. But one of the things that he talks about is what determines expertise at a thing. And so the number that he came up with is 10,000 hours.
Mm.
Anything that you do for 10,000 hours, you are an absolute bona fide expert at. And so Bruce Lee said this in the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. He said, "I don't fear the man who knows how to do 10,000 kicks." He said, "I fear the man who has done one kick 10,000 times." So again, let's take what we have and use the power of compounding, use the power of repetition. I'm going to say one last thing, and I'll kick it back to you. Arthur Ashe was the first black man to win at Wimbledon, tennis pro, and a phenomenal human being, humanitarian philanthropist and activist. Arthur Ashe says something very simple. He said, "Start where you are with what you have while you can."
Mm. I like that a lot.
And if you just the other thing too, brothers and sisters, as you listen to us, another preaching trope,
Yeah.
brothers and
All right.
sisters,
We're all brothers and sisters. That could be.
it can, yeah, you're right. We're all brothers and sisters, but here's the thing: start.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just start. That's it.
Yeah. I would say too, it's working for you, whether it's working. It works whether it's working for you or against you. That's how I'll say it. So if I say I'm terrible at relationships, how do you know that? Well, because this relationship got messed up, and this relationship got messed up, and this relationship got messed up. Okay, so you're manifesting what you believe.
Yeah.
You're just manifesting it in a way,
in a negative way,
not working for you, right?
Right.
I'm not good with money. Well, how do you know? Well, because I always find myself in debt. Oh, see, it's working. Now let's try something else. You can flip it that way too. And then start through repetition building that positive belief into your consciousness and into your mind and into your really neurological programming so that you begin to experience something else. And you can start with anything. So like, I can't tell you how many times I've been facing a problem that I didn't know what to do. And I learned this from the Bible early on.
Preach, brother.
I'll even give you the chapter and verse, the address for it. Don't know what to do in a situation, don't know how to fix a problem. And I go around telling people, I just don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do about this. I don't know. And I sit there and I think, my God, what am I going to do about this? I don't know what to do about this. And in James chapter 1, it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, but let him ask in faith, nothing wavering, right?
Yep.
So in other words, believe that you receive. Well, ask for what? He says, ask for wisdom. So if I believe that I've received wisdom, even when I don't know what to do, if I start declaring and saying to myself, I know what to do, I know exactly what to do, I know exactly how I'm going to solve this problem. Yep. Now, again, that feels incongruent, doesn't feel true, feels like I'm lying, whatever, but I keep saying it. I've done this over and over in my life. I know what to do here. I know how I'm going to fix this. I've got wisdom to handle this situation. We're going to be just fine. And speaking that, and then almost like one of those times when you're in the shower or you're sitting on the toilet. Yep. And it's like insight just comes and all of a sudden you see the problem in a different light. You're like, oh, and you just know this is the answer. This is the thing. And you take it. This is where I think the faith comes in, not doubting. You take it and you apply it to the problem. And more often than not, you're going to see that problem, if not solve, you're going to see it shift. So this can work with anything. This doesn't just work with money. It doesn't just work with health outcomes. It works with, I'm so confused. I'm so frustrated. I don't know which path to take. And if I start speaking and declaring, I know which path to take, it's very clear to me which path to take. Something shifts. And when you have that belief, then the wisdom and the insight often can come. And if you act on it again and apply it, oftentimes it can solve or improve your situation.
Yeah. And so to your point, I want to say this to everybody because a lot of times when you start talking about manifestation, you're talking about money or material things. And people get hung up on that. And so what I want to say to you is don't get hung up on that.
Right.
Think about relationships with your spouse, with your parents, with your children, with your neighbors. Think about how things unfold at work. Think about, things that are not material. Think of things spiritually. That if I fear, why do I fear? What am I fearing? Can I address the things that I fear so that those things don't trigger additional fears, cascading fears, right? Start looking at this from a non-material standpoint. When you're manifesting, it isn't all about the comfortable life. Sometimes if you can get to the point where you are comfortable with yourself, then it becomes easier to manifest the things that you need. because I'm gonna use you and I as an example, because we both dealt with something similar with heart issues, you
Yeah.
know, and if we were just like, well, I'm I'm believing that I'm going to have the right doctor and the right medicine and the right treatment, instead of saying, I want to have the right understanding of this, the right, so that I'm able to make the right choices on a day to day basis. In other words, you and I both spoke and manifested something that was intangible
Right.
before we got to something tangible.
Right.
So I'm saying this to everyone that's listening, that listen, yeah, you may have money issues. You may have material issues. You may have career issues. You may have relationship issues. And all of that, these are real things, they're real problems that people go through. But if you will say, okay, what is it in me that is misaligned? Where am I missing it?
Mm-hmm.
And let me manifest a positive result in
Right.
these areas that I'm lacking.
Right.
And what will happen is that when you start seeing changes in yourself, like, so to your point about imposter syndrome, if you begin to say, okay, I'm not an imposter. I do know what I profess to know. I am capable of what I say I'm
Yeah.
capable of. So now I begin to develop a sense of confidence about myself. And I say, okay,
Yep.
now I can speak to the mountain in my life
Mm-hmm.
and tell it to be removed and to be cast into the sea. Or I can speak to the mulberry tree in my life and tell it to move from this fertile ground where I know it will grow to some place where it may not grow, where it's not supposed to grow, but I'm going to make it grow anyway, because that's what I'm manifesting. I'm manifesting something that will grow wherever it's planted, that it will produce wherever
Yep.
I need it to produce.
Yep.
And so that's where I'm going to close. That's where I.
I think it's a great place to land the plane.
Yep.
Yeah. So I brought us in. Why don't you lead us out?
Um, Again, what I'll say to everybody is that you are co-creator of your reality. In Genesis 1:1, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Every day that you open your eyes and face the world, you create a new heaven and a new earth in your own life.
Love that.
Now, when you create this, are you creating it confident that it's going to produce good fruit, that it's going to produce a good result, that it's going to produce something that not only produces for you but produces a legacy for your lineage? Or are you going to believe that this is going to be awful, that today is going to be a terrible day? I'm worried about how I'm going to produce for my legacy. Whatever you speak, you are going to create. Because in the beginning, and this is another one, this is going to be a controversial one, but at the end of the day, you are the only God you know. At the end of the day, yes, I do believe that there is something greater than us humans, but you are a co-creator with that power.
Mm-hmm.
And just like how that power has created you, it has created you to create your own identity,
Mm-hmm.
and how you respond to situations and circumstances.
For sure.
So wake up, believe, and build.
Wake up, believe, and build. I love it. Love it. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments, and we'll be with you again next week. Peace.
Love y'all. Love you, Aaron.